PowerPoint. Right here. Okay. So let's make these bigger. Okay. Presenting somebody coming in again. Admit. Okay. So let's go back to the chemical level of organization. Is this big enough? Can everybody see this?
That's good.
Yes.
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 Okay. Okay. So let's go through slide by slide. Please ask any questions on every slide about the chemistry stuff. If you have a question, ask. Everybody set? Slide 2 or 3. Any questions? Make sure you know what atomic number is, know the definitions. Read through that. Okay, so a sodium atom has 11 electrons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It gives 1 to chloride, so chlorine goes from 17 to 18. That means the sodium is a positively charged ion and the chloride is negatively charged. So that's an ionic bond. Any questions on ionic bonding? Ask anything, please.
My question on that, is that a given every single time? Like that's going to happen. It's going to give one every single time.
Yes. What do you mean every single time? Anytime
Mm,
you put sodium metal with chlorine
hmm.
gas, you're going to form salt. The
Okay.
sodium loves to give away that electron. The chlorine loves to accept it.
Okay.
This is a chemical reaction. An ionic bond means that the positive sodium is attracted to the negative chloride. Is that clear? Please ask anything you want.
No, that was the mic. That was good.
Okay. This is a sodium chloride crystal. The sodiums attract the chloride and it forms a square crystal. That's salt. Okay. Make sure you know these symbols and these names. Covalent bonds share electrons. If you have hydrogen, it shares 2 electrons. Oxygen shares 4 electrons. Uh, Carbon shares 4 electrons with each of these oxygens. So remember, this hydrogen should be white, but oxygen, carbon dioxide. These are covalent bonds where electrons are shared. Any questions about covalent bonds? Okay. There are 2 types of covalent bonds, nonpolar and polar. Equal sharing is nonpolar. Non-equal sharing is polar. So if you look between this oxygen and this hydrogen, this is a polar covalent bond where the oxygen shares most of the electrons and the hydrogen does not share, only shares a small amount. So water molecule is called a dipole. Water molecule is called a dipole because it has a slightly positive pole and a slightly negative pole. The dotted line represents a hydrogen bond, which is a weak bond, but it helps explain water's high boiling point and uh, why it dissolves things, because these slightly charged areas uh, will do stuff like, we'll get to that. We don't need any of that, 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 any of that. Okay. We need activation energy. So if an enzyme has reactants, to get those reactants to join, you have to apply energy. If you have an enzyme, that energy is greatly reduced, and reactions that would take place. So suppose you have sugar. To burn sugar takes a lot of energy. In your body, sugars can be made or broken down at a very low energy. That's called the energy of activation. We don't need that. We don't need that. Okay. Inorganic molecules such as water and oxygen. That's where I made a mistake. Okay. Organic are large molecules, so make sure you get this straight. I obviously didn't when I was rushing through the Webassign. Okay. Know that these are inorganic compounds. Okay. So here again, water has a negative pole and a positive pole. Water molecules dissolve sodium. Notice that the negative oxygen surrounds the sodium, and the positive hydrogen slightly positive, and that's how sodium chloride is dissolved. The water associates ionic bonds. Okay, know what an acid is? Know what a base is? Questions? Know that pH measures the hydrogen ion concentration. You notice that some of these are directly questions on Webassign. Recognize the pH chart. Extremely acidic on the left, extremely basic on the right. Notice blood is right here, 7.34 to 7.345. Know what a buffer is. A buffer maintains pH. Know what a salt is? There are questions about salts or electrolytes. That's on Webassign. Here's the sodium chloride. Notice they carry electric currents. Incredibly important. The reason we function, the reason that we are able to have nerve messages and contract our muscles is because we can cause currents to flow in and out of tissues. So make sure you read through these and all these terms make sense to you. Glucose is often represented as a hexagon. It's a monosaccharide. Notice it's made up of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. So dehydration synthesis means to put glucose and fructose together and take out water, and we form sucrose. It's called dehydration synthesis. Hydrolysis is when we add water back in and we make single glucose and single fructose from sucrose. Make sure you know what a dehydration synthesis means and what hydrolysis means. These are reactions that take place in the body using enzymes. There's a question about glycogen on the Webassign. If you put individual glucose molecules, the body is able to take these individual molecules, join them together, and store glucose in your liver as glycogen. Glycogen is also called animal starch. Okay? Make sure you are familiar with these examples, function, and remarks. Okay, lipids. Okay, I'm going to take a break and stop this and come back to this and record another shorter presentation.